Welcome to grade 10 CBSE biology class. I am Sudhi here. Today we are going to discuss about chapter number 3, reproduction. In the board itself, it is very clear that there will be two types of reproduction, including asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. First of all, we want to know that what is meant by reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which the living organisms produce new individuals. Living organisms produce new individuals. So thus reproduction simply means that the living organisms produce new individuals by the method asexual or sexual. So that is simply reproduction. So there will be a production of, or otherwise we can say that there will be a production of new individual. Sometimes a single organism will produce a new individual, or otherwise in other case we have to know that two individuals are required to produce a new individual. If two individuals are required to produce a new individual, then that type of reproduction is called as sexual reproduction. If say a single individual can produce a new individual, then we can say that that is a type of asexual reproduction. So there will be two types of reproduction, including sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. As we all know that lower organisms are adopted to asexual reproduction and higher organisms are adopted to sexual reproduction. In the case of mostly animals and human beings, sexual reproductions are there. In the case of lower organisms and in some cases of plants, asexual reproductions are there. There will be a lot of asexual reproduction that we want to discuss later. So right now there will be two types of reproduction, including sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In the case of asexual reproduction, as we already says that a single individual give rise to a new individual. A single individual give rise to a new individual. As we all know that the continuity of life in earth is all about reproduction. The continuity of life in earth. There will be various species are formed in earth. So this is the main reason why reproduction produces, or reproduction is the main factor that is having a great impact role in the continuity of life. So there will be two types of radiation, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. In the case of sexual reproduction, a single individual can give rise to a new individual. Only a single individual is required to produce a new individual. But in the case of asexual sexual reproduction, as we know that two individuals, that means a male and a female individual. A male individual and a female individual is required to produce a new individual. In the case of asexual reproduction, gametes are not formed. Gametes are not formed. But in the case of sexual reproduction, gametes are formed. Then as we already says that it is adopted by lower organisms. Which one? Asexual reproduction is adopted by lower organisms and some plants. But in the case of sexual reproduction, what is the thing? It is adopted by higher organisms. Such as we have to know that, we know that human beings are producing their new individual by the method of sexual reproduction. Animals are producing new individuals. Some animals are producing new individuals by the method of sexual reproduction. So in the case of sexual reproduction, the new individuals are genetically similar. New individuals are genetically similar, but they are not similar to the parents. They are genetically similar, but they are not similar to the parents in the case of physical look like that. So these are the different types of reproduction called as sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Only one individual is required to produce a new individual, then that type of reproduction is called asexual reproduction, and two individuals are required to produce, that is one male individual and one female individual is required to produce a new individual, then that type of reproduction is called a sexual reproduction. Gametes are formed in sexual reproduction and not formed in asexual reproduction. Then it is adopted by, that means asexual reproductions are adopted by lower organisms and sexual reproductions are adopted by higher organisms. Now we want to discuss about asexual reproduction in detail. Now moving to asexual reproduction in detail. What are the types of asexual reproduction? First one is fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation and spore formation. That's are the type of asexual reproduction: fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and finally spore formation. We want to discuss in detail. First of all, fission. The fission reproduction is again classified into two: binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission and multiple fission. We want to discuss vegetative propagation in detail, that we will discuss later. Right now, moving to asexual reproduction, they are classified into fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. So right now, again, the fission is classified into two: binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission and multiple fission. What is mean by binary fission? In the case of binary fission, one nucleus, or otherwise we can say that one cell is split into two identical cells to form new individuals. One cell is split into two identical cells to form new individuals. So a heavy cell is there, or a one cell is there. That one cell is split into two identical cells, and that will produce two new individuals in this case. That is called a binary fission. For example, amoeba. In the reproduction case of amoeba, they are in the category binary fission. They are in the category fission. For more accurately, we can say that they are in the category binary fission. What is mean by multiple fission? Multiple fission, multiple in the term itself, including the definition. Many individuals are formed from a single cell. Many individuals are formed from a single cell, not two. Many individuals are formed from a single cell. Then that type of reproduction is called a binary fission, multiple fission reproduction. Multiple fission reproduction. Many individuals are formed from a single cell. For example, plasmodium. Plasmodium is an example for multiple fission. Then second one is fragmentation. Fragmentation. In the case of fragmentation, body breaks up into two or more fragments. The body breaks up into two or more fragments. So in this case, that means in the fragmentation case, the body breaks up into two or more fragments. Under suitable condition, this fragment is developed into individuals. This fragment is developed into individuals. So here the body breaks up into there will be a one cell or a one organism. That body breaks up into two or more fragments. Then that two or more fragments under suitable condition, they will be developed into new individuals. This is called a fragmentation. So fragmentation reproduction is a type of asexual reproduction in which the body breaks up into two or more fragments, two or more smaller parts. That smaller parts is called fragments. That is mean by two or more fragments. Under suitable condition, these two or more fragments is converted into new individuals. For example, spirogyra. So regeneration. Small cut or broken part of the organism's body regenerate. That means the small cut or broken part of the organism's body. If there will be any small cut or if there will be any break of the individual body, that means the organism's body regenerate into new organisms. Regenerate into new organisms. That type of asexual reproduction is called a regeneration, and hydra is an example. It's a type of reproduction. The type of reproduction in hydra is regeneration. It's a type of asexual reproduction in which a cut or a broken part of the body will regenerate and to produce a new individual. Then budding. As we all know the term budding. A small part of the body of the parent grows out of the bud, out of a bud, and then detaches to produce a new individual. A small part of the body of the parent grows out as a bud. A small part of the body of the parent grows out as a bud. This term is very similar, very knowing term. That means budding. Nowadays, it is very familiar to all of us, budding. So here, in this case of budding, it's a type of asexual reproduction in which a small part of the body of the parent grows outside as a bud, and then detaches to produce a new individual. So the next one is vegetative propagation. We have to discuss vegetative propagation in detail. What is mean by vegetative propagation? It develops from the vegetative part. New individuals are developed from the vegetative part such as stem, root, leaves, etc. New individuals are developed from the vegetative part of the plant such as stem, root, leaves, etc. And that type of propagation is called, that type of asexual reproduction is called a vegetative propagation. Then finally, spore formation. Small bulb-like structures covered by thick walls is called spores. Under matured condition or under suitable condition, these spores are developed into new individuals. This types of formation is called a spore formation. For example, rhizopus. For example, rhizopus. So these are the type of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction are classified as fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. Again, the fission is classified into two, binary fission and multiple fission. In the case of binary fission, one cell is splitted into two identical cells. In the case of multiple fission, that means lot of individuals are formed from a single cell. That means many individuals are formed from a single cell. Plasmodium is an example. Plasmodium shows which type of reproduction? Multiple fission reproduction. Then amoeba shows binary fission reproduction. Then fragmentation, example is Spirogera. Regeneration, example is Hydra. Then spore formation, example is Rhizopus. We want to discuss vegetative propagation in detail. That's all about asexual reproduction. Now, vegetative propagation in detail. There are two methods in the case of vegetative propagation, such as natural methods and artificial